Okay, so we are reading The Shift by Dr. Wayne Dyer. We are on chapter 3, page number 75 in the book.
Page number 59 of the PDF.
Quantum moments can turn life upside down. I discuss quantum moments in the film, along with the fact that they've been reported by thousands of people who have experienced a shift in their awareness about life. These people have made the move from an ego-driven life perspective to a spiritually balanced one, and have become more authentic beings.
So now what is happening? Whenever that quantum moment arises, it's like a mystical experience that you experience, and that experience actually creates a shift in your life. Whether you like it or not, you will shift when you experience that mystical experience.
There are 4 qualities that help us recognize a quantum moment, the kind with the potential to introduce us to our authentic self. In their book, Quantum Change, When Epiphanies and Sudden Insights Transform Ordinary Lives, authors William R. Miller and Janet Sidi Baka state that quantum change is a vivid, surprising, benevolent, and enduring personal transformation. Please note that the italics are courtesy of the authors of Quantum Change. What follows is how I view those 4 qualities in a slightly different order in relation to our making the shift from ambition to meaning.
So surprising, if you see our the 4 S's, surprise. So it manifests on its own. It comes on its own. It's a surprise. Okay. Then is it easy for you to do? Is it the best thing for all concerned? So benevolent. Okay. And you accept it. So it creates, once you accept things, it creates enduring transformation in your life. So this equates a lot with our 4 S's also.
What follows is how I view those 4 qualities in a slightly different order in relation to our making the shift from ambition to meaning. 1. Surprising. It might sound contradictory to plan on being surprised, but everyone reports that quantum moments are unexpected, uninvited, and unforeseen. This is when synchronicity and serendipity collaborate to astound us. It's as if we surrender
Shimangla, we can't hear you.
and let ourselves be lived by life. We become the student who is ready, and the teacher does, in fact. However, this generally preceded by a fall.
So again, whenever we surrender, that means we let go, we allow things to happen. That is when the transformation starts to take place. We've lost her.
Are you recording?
Yes, yes. Start.
Earlier in this chapter, I wrote about the falls that we often take prior to any kind of spiritual advance. The universe seems to work in this way, and I could recount many examples from my own life. As I mentioned previously, my final decision to live an alcohol-free life involved a quantum moment that totally surprised me.
So again, before you rise, you have to fall. It's like we discussed, like the trampoline. To jump higher, you have to fall deeper.
On that particular day, I was awakened at 4:07 a.m. to a voice, a faint smell of roses in the room, and an overwhelming feeling of being in the presence of divine energy. There appeared to be a slight breeze in my enclosed bedroom, and while I was transfixed and feeling a gooseflesh sensation throughout my body, I was also stunned by what was happening in the moment. The voice told me that I was through with alcohol and that it would be easy to give it up.
So again, faint smell of roses. So many people, we keep telling people who attend the excursion workshop and the other workshops that you may smell things. So we actually tell people not to wear any perfume or aromatic oils and come to these sessions because people actually smell things. Also, many people feel a whiff of breeze. They are maybe they are covering themselves with a blanket, but they still feel a whiff in their feet or a whiff in their face, or as if someone has touched their hair. That whiff is there. And it can be pretty transformative when you start feeling all these things.
It's now 2 decades later, and I can report with total honesty that what I was told was 100% true. I've never been tempted to include alcohol in my life again. This was a total surprise to me. Yet, as I've shifted in the direction of spirit over the years, I've had many of these surprises which attracted my attention and led me to greater spiritual consciousness.
So I've had many of these surprises. Now, a surprise is there, but we must be open to be aware of the surprise. So our awareness, our acceptance, our allowing that surprise into our life becomes extremely important. The surprise is right in front of us, or the universe is telling us something and we reject it. We go into resistance. Then it's not going to affect our life. So again, words like can't, won't, should, all these have to go in the dustbin. When you want to shift states of consciousness, they have to get out of the way. That means you need to get out of the way, basically.
2. Vivid. These quantum moments that turn life upside down are also characterized as being extremely intense. Even to this day, I can recall every detail of that spectacular quantum moment that occurred when I gave up alcohol. The sheets on the bed, the clothes hanging over the top of my closet door, a little carton taped to a mirror above my dresser, the container of coins on the floor, the color of the walls, a scratch mark on my headboard. Everything is as vivid to me today as it were more than 20 years ago. It seems to me that when spirit calls, it creates an exclamation point to emphasize the entire episode. There's a vividness that stays with us forever.
So again, when people are going into deep states of meditation, deep states of consciousness, the colors, the vividity, the hues which are there become totally transformative.
Number 3, benevolent. The third quality of these quantum moments is that they are benevolent. For example, the early morning adventure I just related was one of the most peaceful and blissful times I've ever experienced. The ease that embraced me was like being cradled in the arms of a truly loving and generous creator.
Okay.
For
So now
years,
again, all these experiences, like for example, many people are sharing today that, I mean, when we did the reball exercise, that we did not want to come back from that state. So whenever we are going into these expanded states, we find that it feels like home. There is so much of peace and harmony in those states that we don't want to come back. Okay. So what he says here, cradled in the arms of a truly loving and generous creator. So we feel so welcome, so at home in that state that we don't want to come back.
for years I've had thoughts about my dependency on a few beers every evening. I tried to think back to a day when I hadn't had a beer in the evening and couldn't recall a day in the previous decade or possibly more. I told myself it wasn't a dependency because I never got drunk or put myself or anyone else in danger by driving under the influence. However, in my inner place of truth, I knew that I was dependent on this beer drinking activity and that it was interfering in my life in potentially damaging ways. Yet, I still persisted, that is, until my fall and the quantum moment. To this day, I recount that early morning encounter with whatever it was as one of the most rapturous and serene moments of my life. The experience of the benevolence of a quantum moment shifted me to a totally new world where meaning replaced the ambition of the ego.
So again, we are all dependent on certain things. Now we do not even realize that we are dependent. So we are in a box, okay? We are in a habit of doing things in a particular way. So the more observant you can become of what your habits are, whether they are uplifting or depleting, and then start slowly shifting them, the less dependent you are on anything, that is any kind of habit, any material, any kind of system that you use, the better off you are. Because if you are stuck with that habit, then you are in the pattern. So now you are in a ritual. So even sportsmen, before they go on the field, they have a ritual, right? Now, yes, the ritual puts them into that state, but then again it creates dependency also. Because if in on any day they are not able to complete the ritual, then they are not going to perform well. So the idea is to transcend all of these rituals, etc. Okay, so when we are shifting from ambition to meaning, then all these rituals, everything starts to fall away. So today only in the morning he was talking about a self-realized person does not have any more desires. Any action that he takes is done on the basis of giving it to the Lord, to the divine consciousness. So actually what is happening? When you do that, you're shifting your state of consciousness totally. You're not concerned about the outcome of whatever action you're taking. You're always taking an action for the greater good. So you're creating meaning in your life and removing the selfishness which is associated with ambition.
Number 4, enduring. The fourth quality of a quantum moment is that it never goes away. The enduring truth from my example is that I'm in my third decade of total abstinence. Had I continued on my same beer drinking path, I quite likely wouldn't have lived long enough to write what I'm relating to you now. When we are in the process of turning our life around to reflect meaning rather than ego's ambition, we will have a quantum moment that's surprising, vivid, benevolent, and enduring. That moment will be burned into our consciousness in a vivid picture that won't be forgotten. I've heard it described as being like a warm shower running inside yourself, whose gracious imprint endures into infinity.
So, like for me, a quantum moment was when I was actually woken up. I've shared this story before, and I saw awareness being typed out in front of me, and I was shaken up and told, go and start the Facebook page right now. So that was a quantum moment for me. Another quantum moment that I felt, one day I was just meditating, and then this person, he comes and stands in front of me and asks me that, when were you happy? And then I started thinking, when was I happy? And I realized that I was not happy in doing normal business as all our normal families are doing, but I was happy when I was roaming around learning, teaching, etc. And that's that exact moment in when I shifted gear and consciously shut down in the office everything that dependent on me was dependent on me, and shifted totally into whatever we are doing in awareness. So these shifts, when they come, they can be actually very, very beautiful for you. But the point is to become aware of them and then to catch them rather than let them slip through your fingers.
How life changes after a quantum moment experience. My earliest books focused almost exclusively on psychological tools to help readers employ effective common sense approaches to problems. There are no references to God or a higher self in the first 15 or so years of my publishing history. Today, my values and my writing reflect the shift from ambition to meaning that took place later in my life and writing career. Had I attempted to live the afternoon of my life according to the program of my life's morning, I would have been living a lie, as Carl Jung points out in the last sentence of the quotation that opens this chapter. Prior to those quantum moments, my life was shaped much more extensively by my ego. I probably would have responded like the men and women who participated in the studies that are reported in Quantum Change. After asking the individuals to define what effect their quantum moment experiences had on their lives, the authors concluded that the person's value system was often turned upside down.
So when we are operating from ego and when we are operating from a spiritual aspect or from what he calls meaning, there is a total shift in the way you operate. Because when you are operating from ego, that selfishness is there, that personal interest is there. As soon as that quantum moment comes and you actually shift states, then you become giving, you become compassionate, you become all loving. So you are shifting that state of consciousness altogether.
The top 5 values for men before their quantum moment were wealth, adventure, achievement, pleasure, and being respected. I interpret these as the morning values prior to the shift from ambition to meaning. There's no judgment intended here. These qualities are simply what ego has been taught to believe is important and necessary for success.
So all these things are personal based. My achievement, I want to experience the adventure. My pleasure, I want to be respected. I want to acquire wealth. So it is all with the I. It is all ego driven.
Early in life, men learn that their job is to make money and their worth depends on how much money they've accumulated. Males who grow to adulthood in a society that emphasizes ego consistently report similar shared values. A man believes that he must amass wealth, have adventure, achieve at all costs, and seek pleasure by making himself the most important person in all respects, especially regarding intimacy. Me first. As long as everything is fine, and the need to be respected at all costs is a key reason for the conflicts that rage in our male dominated, war ravaged world.
So instead of compassion, we are operating out of ego. So there's always a clash. My opinion is more important than the other guy's opinion. And that's when all the, because when two people are fighting, they are totally convinced that they are right. Otherwise, there would be no war. So both sides think they are right. Now, of course, the victor of the battle writes the story. So always the victor will be look in history to be the positive one. The other guy will be off, but there's always two sides to the coin.
When these same men, and I include myself with them, report as prime values after a quantum moment, is one of the main messages of the shift. The top priority for these men was a value that didn't appear anywhere on the list when they were in the morning of their lives: spirituality. That's right. After a move towards the afternoon of life, spirituality tops the list. In fact, Quantum Change reports that the 5 most valued characteristics with that original group of men were now spirituality, personal peace, family, God's will, and honesty. It's easy to understand why a quantum moment would be seen as turning life upside down. This is a complete shift away from the pleadings of the ego and back home to a desiring a God realized life of peace, family, love, and personal honesty.
So again, a total shift from egocentrism to holistic being, spirituality, totally holistic. Personal peace. If I am peaceful internally, then I will radiate peace everywhere. Family, looking out for others. God's will. So I'm dependent on a supreme will. I trust that there's a supreme power, there is a supreme force which is directing everything. And honesty. So I will not make assumptions. I will say the truth. Impeccability of word. Again, the four agreements comes in. Impeccable with your word, not making assumptions, not taking things personally, and doing your best. These totally radiate with these uh, items over here.
For women, the shift away from the morning's ego driven messages is every bit as fascinating. When asked to prioritize their values pre quantum moment, their number one value was family. This isn't surprising because women have been programmed to believe that being a mother, daughter, wife supersedes all else. This isn't meant to denigrate the female roles of mother, daughter, sister, grandmother, and so on. Rather, I mean to give credence to the fact that there's more to being a woman than being someone else's walking to do list. Every woman has a dharma, yet, quite often, she relegates her personal dharma to an unimportant status compared to her family roles.
So technically, most women are more spiritually and family oriented as a, because again they are nurturing the child within themselves for 9 months. So it's very very relevant that they will absolutely want to look out for the child.
The next pre quantum highest value were independence, career, fitting in, and attractiveness. This attitude is dramatically characterized in the movie when Sarah describes the conflicts women experience. They want to be good mothers, yet independence and a career are at the top of their list of values. Furthermore, prior to a quantum experience, they rank fitting in and being attractive as very high priorities. But after making the shift into the afternoon of life, which is frequently aided by a surprising quantum moment experience, women report that their values take on an entirely new flavor.
So again, independence is again self-oriented. A career, again, ego-oriented. Fitting in, I want to fit in. I want to be accepted. And attractiveness. Again, society has said that you need to be attractive if you're a woman.
According to quantum change, personal growth topped the list in women's post quantum questioning, followed by self esteem, spirituality, happiness, and generosity. Five things that did not even make the list in the morning of women's lives. As the females in the studies became more conscious of their spiritual nature, their concept of themselves began to shift. Previously, things like spirituality and self esteem were not considered to be important values. But after their quantum moments, they were given a totally new set of values and propelled in a new direction, the purposeful afternoon of life.
So again, totally uplifting modalities.
I commend William R. Miller and Jeanette Becca for their groundbreaking research, and I highly recommend that you check out their book. I guarantee that you will find it as fascinating as I do. It's fitting to end this chapter titled 2, which signifies the new direction of our lives, when we are open to the shift, with the final words from Carl Jung's quotation at the opening of this chapter. For what was great in the morning will be little at evening, and what in the morning was true will at evening have become a lie.
So again, things are not permanent. Okay, they are constantly shifting. our ideas, our values are constantly shifting. It's constantly transforming.
Our life and the lives of those we impact will be devoid of any lies when we shed our false self and shift into the afternoon and evening. This is the subject of the next and final chapter titled Meaning.
So when we drop the facade, we start becoming who we truly are. We start being ourselves rather than attempting to be what society and what others want us to be. So we create value for ourselves in our own eyes. And that's the most important thing in life, according to me.
Chapter 4 Meaning. Life is not meaningful unless it is serving to an end beyond itself, unless it is of value to someone else.
So again,
Abraham Joshua Heschel.
transcending yourself, okay, and then transcending life itself. So what are we here for? We are here to connect, okay. That connection is the most important thing.
The one possible way of giving meaning to man's existence is that of raising his natural relation to the world to a spiritual one.
So again,
Albert Schweitzer.
yeah, to spiritualizing all our activities. In fact, the first saying, unless it is value to someone else, the next book we are planning to take up is Ikagai. I was just referring to it. And one of the main things in that is community. How you are merging with community. How are you creating value for others in your community? So this is what? Value to someone else. That is what creates real meaning in your life.
Have you read Ikagai Bhiya? It's supposed to be absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, we are planning to take it up next.
Okay, our book club read it. LSG book club read it.
Yeah, so we are doing it next over here.
Great.
Here we are at the end, which ironically turns out to be identical to the place from which we originated. Our
So
goal
again,
in
we
this
came from
journey
that divine consciousness and we are going back towards that divine consciousness. So again, when we look at it, we were so aware. Now we became so much aware. And then when we go back, we'll be again so much aware. Now here, when we are stuck here in this 3D environment, we want to increase the awareness here itself so that when we go back, we don't have a issue in transcending.
Our goal in this journey from ambition to meaning has been to return to the place from which we originated and, in the words of T.S. Eliot, know the place for the first time. We came from a placeless place of purpose and significance. At birth, we took on a false self known as ego, and we spent a period of our life endeavoring to satisfy its ambitious cravings. Then we made a shift in direction and began heading back home. Here we are in the meaningful afternoon of life, the place where, to paraphrase the Emmanuel quote earlier in the book, our mind doesn't know the way, our heart has already been there, and our soul never left. Welcome home.
So again, we can operate from the mind, we can operate from the heart, and we can operate from a deeper state of consciousness, which is the soul. You can call it the Atma or whatever. So the idea is to shift from the logical into the emotional and then into the etheric. So there's a constant shift. And what we are finding is that when we want to create a shift, a jugalbandi has to be there between the mind and the heart. So the emotion and feeling have to start working in conjunction when you want manifestation to start taking place, or you want quantum shifts to start manifesting in your life.
Having arrived home, each breath we take is an expression of our life purpose. We no longer struggle to win, gain the approval of others, meet expectations others had for us, fulfill someone else's idea of our dharma, or acquire, achieve, or hoard. We let go of conflict, certainty, being right, fighting, dominating, vanquishing, and feeling superior. All of this ego stuff loses its power and attraction when we arrive home, where meaning welcomes us.
So now if you look at it, we no longer struggle to win. Now if there is a win-lose, which side of the grid you are in? You're in the left side. So all the things mentioned over here you'll find are everything which is on the left side of the grid. So when gaining approval of others, that means you put your happiness in the other guy's hand. Again, you're on the left side. Meeting expectations of others. So now if the other guy doesn't approve of what we are doing, we do not meet their expectations, again we are on the left side of the grid, fulfilling someone else's idea of adharma. So we are not merging with our own internal desires. You can never be on the right side with that. Okay. Acquiring, achieving, and hoarding will all put you on the left side of the grid. Conflict, certainty, being right, fighting and dominating, vanquishing and feeling superior. Each of these characteristics puts you on the left side of the grid.
Many years ago, after a conversation with my friend Ram Das, I wrote these words. All of my life, I wanted to be somebody. Now, I finally am somebody, but it isn't me.
So this is beautiful, right? We constantly want to achieve. We constantly want to create a status for ourselves. But once we achieve that status, we find that it is hollow. It is not actually what we are looking for. And then the search again starts.
I strove to become that somebody whom everyone admired for all of his ego strengths, vast accomplishments, accumulation of wealth, and house full of merit badges. Yet, I ultimately came to realize that it wasn't me. The components of the ego were well established, but I had miles to go before I could truly say, I am living out of my dharma. I am on purpose, and my life means something.
So when we are on our life's purpose, there'll be a flow, there'll be a sweetness. Things will just happen spontaneously. Now, whenever we are offline, that's when the resistance starts coming. The egocentricism starts coming. When upset, sukh, dukh will start to come. When I'm on the path, then there's no sukh and dukh. We are just in equanimity. We are in equilibrium all the time.
Abraham Heschel's quote at the beginning of this chapter explains what was missing. He notes that meaningfulness is unavailable unless one's life is serving an end beyond itself, unless it is of value to someone else.
So how do we create value? By being more than what we are, by helping others, by supporting others, and then the cycle starts moving. That's shown very clearly in the Celestine prophecy also, where they were sending energy to the plants and the plants were sending energy back, where they were sending energy to someone and that person was sending it back. There was no give and take. The power, the control dramas were out of the way. You're giving because you want to give. You are serving because you want to serve. You're not expecting anything in return. Okay, and that really makes you powerful.
That somebody I wanted to be, who by all accounts I had actually become, wasn't the authentic me. I came into this world just like you and everyone else with nothing, that is, no things. I will leave this world the same way with nothing. My conclusion: since we don't get to keep anything we accomplish or accumulate, the only thing we can do with our life is to give it away.
So again, we came with nothing, we are going back with nothing. So everything that I'm acquiring is actually useless in the long term. In the long run, it is actually useless. But what will be remembered when we create value for others by being bigger than ourselves? So that is what will remain. That memory is what will remain. The wealth, etc., will pass on to someone else. It's gone. Okay, but when people remember us with fondness, when we create value in their life, that is when we really create value in our own life.
Albert Schweitzer, a man I so admire, explains in the second quote that opens this chapter that the way to give meaning to life is to raise our consciousness to a spiritual awareness rather than a material one.
So again, shifting from materialism to spiritualism.
This means learning to think like gods think, which I emphasize throughout this book and in my movie. This is the big shift, away from ego and back to the oneness of spirit while staying alive yet dead to the false self.
So again, God thinks holistically. God is doing for everyone. God is ultimate compassion. God is love. Okay, so you're shifting into the right side of the grid from the left side of the grid.
Preparing for a life of meaning. How do we live our lives in this egoless place of home? As you might suspect, Lao Tzu offers us few clues on how this is accomplished. First, he notes what is necessary to feel the sense of heaven on earth, referred to as immortality. The mystical techniques for achieving immortality are revealed only to those who have dissolved all ties to the gross worldly realm of duality, conflict, and dogma. As long as your shallow world ambitions exist, the door will not open.
So this is like a dichotomy, right? The person who has disconnected from duality, has disconnected from any kind of ambition, is has transcended sukh and dukh. Okay, for them immortality is meaningless, but that is when that immortality will come, will open up to you. So when you don't give any value to immortality, that is when it opens up for you.
The mystical techniques for achieving immortality are revealed only to those who have dissolved all ties to the gross worldly realm of duality, conflict, and dogma. As long as your shallow worldly ambitions exist, the door will not open. If we can't at least get this process started, in other words, we are left with the frustrations of ego and the door to immortality simply won't open. To live a life of meaning, we are required to do a radical egoectomy and dissolve our ties to what Lao Tzu calls the world of the 10,000 things. As he advises,
So again, removing attachment. So what is he saying? The world of 10,000 things. We are attached to so many things. The more you dissolve your attachment to things, that is when you start moving towards that spiritual or that quantum state of consciousness.
when you succeed in connecting your energy with the divine realm through high awareness and the practice of undiscriminating virtue, the transmission of the ultimate subtle truths will follow.
So again, what is the key over here? It is awareness, becoming aware of what is happening. Because only when you are aware can you put strategies in place to shift your state of consciousness.
As we dissolve our ties to the material world and simultaneously connect to the divine realm, we have the opportunity to receive guidance from beyond ourselves.
So this is what, when we are going into expanded states of awareness, that is when we can connect to guidance. We can connect to states of consciousness where we connect to those entities who are living there, who are wiser than us, who have more experience than us, and get downloads of information for ourselves. So this is what Focus 12 is all about, expanded awareness. So he says very clear, connect to the divine realms, we have opportunities to receive guidance from beyond ourselves. So we are transcending our this physical body, going into an expanded state and getting guidance from there as to how to act in this 3D reality so that we can reach that transcendental state much easier.
We know then what a life of purpose and significance feels like on a daily basis. It is never about ego. Lao Tzu knew this truth 2,500 years ago And Jesus reminded us of it 500 years later in the teachings of the New Testament. A life full of meaning celebrates the perfection of ourselves and nature. We are in harmony with everyone and everything around us.
So this becomes important. Whenever we are operating at a higher state of consciousness, then the lower state automatically drops. Now, in the lower stage, in this 3D reality, we have ambition, we have ego, we have all these things. When we are going into those higher states, and those higher states become our normal state, you will find that slowly the egocentrism automatically starts to drop. You can't consciously drop it. It has to drop on its own. Okay.
Yet this harmonious state can't be accomplished when we adopt the characteristics of ego. To be able to enter a life of spirit and purpose, we have to give our life away.
So give our life away means be of service. Okay. Do unto others as you would want them to do unto you. But then again, that's a transaction. So just be benevolent, just keep giving. And then whatever the universe has in store for you, it will automatically turn around and come back.
This is a concept that ego will ridicule, even working overtime to convince us that it will have disastrous consequences. Authentic self wonders, how may I serve? Ego's attitude, on the other hand, is gimme, 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 I need more, and I can never be satisfied. When we align with ego's voice, the universe provides experiences that match the gimme, gimme, gimme energy. It may not seem obvious at first, but if we pay attention, it's quite clear that this energy creates pressure, anxiety, and stress.
So
Why?
over here, what does this mean? Okay, now whatever is in us will be attracted by us. Why? Because of resonance. So whatever is in me will resonate with what is outside me. So what are you noticing? What is coming into your awareness? It all depends on what you are resonating with. If you are resonating with conflict, that is what will manifest in your life. If you are resonating with love, that is what will manifest in your life. And when we are operating from ego, it is always self-centered. It's always give me. So you're constantly attracting all those things into your life. You're constantly attracting the conflict. You're constantly attracting the jealousy into your life. And naturally, all these things are putting you on the left side of the grid. So stress is bound to be there. Whenever we are on the left side of the grid, we are stressed out. So it carries with with it the baggage of stress whenever we are talking about gimme, gimme, gimme.
It may not seem obvious at first, but if we pay attention, it's quite clear that this energy creates pressure, anxiety, and stress. Why? Because aligning with ego means that we've chosen to live in a demanding environment. We simply haven't realized that we have a choice to join forces with our authentic ideals and live in a non demanding environment. The law of attraction works either ways.
So now if I align with the flow, okay, and there are no demands I'm making, then automatically my environment will also not be demanding of me. Things will start to become ease. They will ease out. Again, when we look at the second S, easy for you to do. Anything that is difficult for you to do will be violating that second S. And every time and one of the S's is violated, you'll end up creating a problem in your life. You can actually look back in whenever things have gone wrong, and you'll find one of those four S's has got violated.
The more we demand from the universe, the more is demanded of us. The more we give away, the more is given to us. It's truly a simple matter of attitudinal energy generated from within ourselves. Consistently thinking of needing more attracts that needy energy back to us. When we consistently generate thoughts of giving, however, we attract the energy of giving back to us.
So now this has to come at a deeper state of consciousness. if I am giving for the sake of giving, getting back, then I'm still operating out of need. Okay, I haven't shifted states. So you should just give and forget it. Whatever needs to come back will automatically come back to you. You're not going into a transaction over here. Okay.
Returning to Lao Tzu, he notes, it is entirely possible for you to achieve immortality and to experience absolute joy and freedom forever. The practice of undiscriminating virtue is the means to this end.
So again, when you see the four agreements, okay, the practice of indiscriminating virtue. So do your best. Don't take things personally. Don't make assumptions. And what was the fourth? Uh,
We are not talking about four
Impeccable.
S's.
Be impeccable with your words.
yeah, be impeccable with your words. So
Yeah.
again, undiscriminating virtue. If you are impeccable with your words, you are totally honest. You will always say the truth. So there is nothing going to shift you out of that. Okay. So this verse totally encompasses the four agreements.
Practicing kindness and selflessness, you naturally align your life with the integral way.
So again,
Yes.
when you're kind, when you're selfless, you're on the right side of the grid. Okay, so you're more benevolent, you're giving, and the more you give, the universe automatically supports your giving. Because how can you give when you have, right? If you don't have, how can you give? So the more you give, the more universe gives you to give more. So again, it becomes a powerful cycle, but it's an uplifting cycle, not a reverse cycle where I'm hoarding. So then I'm constantly operating out of lack, which puts me on the left side of the grid.
The shift is a contemporary interpretation of this ancient teaching. I hope to impart to you that meaning is not achieved through your ego and its selfish ways, but through the part of yourself that is selfless. In the verse above, Lao Tzu speaks of practicing undiscriminating virtue. This is your path to the freedom and joy that characterize a purposeful life.
So as soon as you become more giving, okay, you will enjoy freedom because you're not hoarding. You're just giving, you have freedom, right? You're not attached to things. The more you give, the more freedom you'll have, the more joy you will have. You will create joy in the lives of people. And the more joy you're creating, that joy is bound to radiate back to you so that you can give more joy. Okay, so the idea is to start giving as much as possible instead of hoarding things. Should we
The
stop
four
here today
cardinal
or should we move? It's going to take two more sessions. You want to stop here today or you want to continue?
Yeah, we can stop because this is new.
We can stop here.
I think let's stop here. It's saying. Anyone, anything to say? This is a very powerful book, I must say.
Bhaiya, with this being impeccable with your words is really helping me. जैसे कुछ भी बोलना होता था पहले अपने बोलते थे हाँ 2:30 बजे 3 बजे ऐसा था, बट अब मैं सोच के बोलती हूँ कि नहीं 2:30 था कि 2:35 था या मैंने कितना बजे क्या किया था, मैंने ऐसे किया था. So I'm very careful while talking. So this is
wonderful.
Really.
Yeah, so now you're becoming aware of your thoughts. Okay.
Yes.
So again, it's a matter of awareness at the end of the day. And
It's
most
really
of the time, we are just saying things without actually understanding because your words have power. They have a lot of power. So what are you saying becomes very, very important. How are you saying becomes even more important.
Because you said that the universe becomes confused when you say ऐसा है और तुमने ऐसा किया ही नहीं है.
Correct.
तो बात तो झूठी बोल दी मैंने, हाँ मैंने ऐसा
Yeah, so you're lying. You're not being impeccable with your word.
The universe is confused. That's
forget the universe. Even yourself is confused. Because internally, though you are a watcher, na? You're witnessing what you're doing. Absolutely. So even if someone else doesn't know you're lying, but you know you're lying.
Thank you.
So you're being untruthful to yourself. Forget anyone else.
Yes.
And
Bhaiya,
now,
the four, sorry.
1 second. Yes, Sudha?
no, and now I'm more conscious about the tone of my voice.
Yeah, the tone is extremely important.
Yeah.
How are you saying something? And we talk about it in the excursion also. Okay, that what is the tone? The tone is what is understood by the right side of the brain. The words are what is understood by the left side of the brain. And the right side of the brain is connected with emotions. It's connected with your heart. And your heart is extremely important because your heart radiates a field which is much bigger than what is radiated by the brain. And our sensitivity actually comes from the frequencies that our heart is picking up. So we can actually see when we are using the HeartMath EM wave, we can actually see how your heart is working through HRV on screen, which denotes if you're stressed out or not, whether you're on the left side of the grid or on the right side of the grid. You can actually see it on screen. It's amazing. Yeah, Sheetal, you were saying something. Sorry.
Yeah, I wanted to ask a question. This is not regarding this book, but this is regarding Reball. You said that we can be in that F10 all the time, right?
One second, please. 1 second. Everyone who's not speaking at this point, just unmute. Yeah, go ahead, Sheetal.
Yeah, so you had said that you have to be in that F10 conscious all the time. I mean, that's the best way. So can you tell me how do you do it? Every moment you're thinking of that F10 or it just...
No, I never said that you have to be in F10 all the time. I said as you start, 1 second, as you start using that state of consciousness a lot, slowly and steadily, it will become your normal state of consciousness.
Oh, okay.
I never said that you have to operate in state of consciousness. Now, when we said that the reball, the encoding to go into F10 is take a deep breath, think of the number 10 and exhale, feel the relaxation going through your body. Okay.
Yes, correct.
Now the encoding for F10 is embedded inside the encoding of the reball.
Okay. Yes.
What is the reball? Take a deep breath. Think of the number 10.
Correct.
So again, it's the same thing, right? What is the encoding for F10? Take a deep breath, think of number 10.
Right.
For the reball, the first part of the encoding is take a deep breath, think of number 10.
Think of number 10. Correct.
In a bright, shiny ball.
Yes. Yes.
Exhale, feeling that energy popping all over you.
Yes. Correct.
So the encoding for F10 is embedded inside the encoding for reball. So the more you are reballing genuinely, okay, not just for the heck of it, you're genuinely attempting to shift into that state of consciousness. Automatically you're touching F10. And the more familiar you become with that state, the more normal that state will start becoming for you.
Okay, got it.
It's a process. It's not going to happen overnight.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, you learned how to drive a bicycle. It took time to create the balance, right?
Yes, correct. That's right. Yeah.
So once you created the balance, now you're there.
Yeah.
You got it.
So
It's
you
the
have to do
same
it,
principle.
I mean, the more frequent you do it, the more you are.
Exactly. So that's why giving reballs to others and sending healing to others is beneficial to you also, because you're constantly going into that state of consciousness.
Perfect. Got it. Yes.
You got that?
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, Ankit, you have a question? Or Prachi, I don't know.
Me. Hello.
Yeah, Prachi, bolo.
Ram, uncle.
Ram,
No, I was just saying, when we were reading the book, we were talking about this part where they talk about immortality and that, when you don't want it or when you don't attach importance to it, then you get it.
Exactly.
So, just remembered something from, reading Harry Potter.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very nice to connect back to just simple notes or simple things we've read in as children. And there in the Philosopher's Stone, the crux of the idea behind how Harry could get the stone was that if Dumbledore put the magic in the mirror, that if have you read it?
Yeah, I read it long time back, I guess. But share, come on.
Yeah, so in that, basically what happens is that Dumbledore puts this magic in the mirror that whoever wants the stone, but not for themselves, or doesn't attach importance to living through the stone or something like that, then only they acquire the stone. That person automatically gets it in his pocket. So
exactly.
That's how, because he knew that Harry would want to search for it, but not for himself, but for the greater good, is how he got the stone in the pocket. So it just reminded me of that, and how these little things connect back to, much deeper thoughts and ideas, which people might have while writing all of this.
101%. So if you see, Harry Potter's entire life was lived selflessly.
Yeah,
always. He was always doing for others. And everything came back to him. You understand? Yeah. So basically, that's the game. It's absolutely the game. Thank you so much for bringing this up. Beautifully put. Lovely connection. Yes, Shalini.
Yes, Bhaiya, you keep saying about the 4 agreements. I think I'm missing one. First is don't make assumptions.
The first one is be impeccable with your word.
Yes.
The second one is don't make assumptions.
Okay.
The third one is don't take anything personally.
Okay.
And the fourth one is do your best.
Okay. And one more thing, I think I missed that class when you keep again repeating the 4 S's. So can you just say?
So the 4 S's is, the first one is Swata. It comes into your life by itself.
Okay.
The second one is Sahaj. Sahaj means it's easy for you to do.
Okay.
The third is Shresht.
Shresht.
That is for the higher good.
Okay.
And the fourth one is Swikar.
Swikar.
That means I need to accept it.
Okay, Bhaiya. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Anything? Okay, so we meet at 3:45 for meditation. Today we have the Gita class at 7 o'clock. We don't have the 9:15 today. So thank you for joining today, and we will see you again at 3:45.
Thank you, Bhaiya. Thank you.
Ram,
Thanks a lot, Ram.
Thank you, Shri Mangla.
Thank you.
Thank you, both of you.
Ram.
Ram.
Thank you.
Thank you.